Your journey into social media was quite unique. It's kind of an accident, right?
A complete accident.
Oh, you got kicked out?
Yeah, I got asked to leave.
They kicked you out of the gym?
Yeah.
So did they not believe that you were blind?
You can't really complain about it because
No.
you should know, you should expect it, unfortunately. Not that it's right
That's
in
the
any way.
question though, isn't it? Should you expect it? Toby, welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being my first ever guest on the podcast.
It's an honour. It is
It's
an honour.
honour. Well, when I was trying to think of people that I wanted to talk to, you were top of my list. So here we are.
I don't know why, mate.
I think it's because you're going to make me be positive. And that's the main thing why I wanted to talk to you. So just to give you a background on the podcast and what we're going to talk about, well, it's all about you. So I don't want you asking me any questions because I haven't prepped any answers. I wanted to speak to people who had a positive outlook on life, who were resilient, had a good mental attitude. And I feel like every time I've spoke to you, that's been the case. So it's going to be a lot about you, a lot about your mindset, you know, day-to-day life. But let's take it back to the beginning. Talk to me about your childhood. What were you like as a kid? I feel like you were naughty.
Oh,
I feel like you were a cheeky kid.
do I give that vibe?
Yes.
I've kept
Every
the-
time I've met you, you've given me that vibe.
I've kept the cheekiness into my adult years. Yeah, I was quite naughty, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I always knew that I was like visually impaired, but it was never really spoken about.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was something different about me, but couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I always tried to fit in.
Yeah.
And that led to me, being quite naughty, especially in secondary school. Maybe that was a bit of frustration as well. I don't
Yeah.
know. But oh my God, yeah, I was a naughty kid, bit arrogant, bit ignorant as well, to be honest. So yeah, not the best kid in the world. But
When did
you
you
know.
kind of like realize that you had a vision issue?
So I was diagnosed at 2. I was actually diagnosed as registered blind at the age of 2.
Okay.
Even though I had a fair bit more vision than I do now. I kept walking into the Christmas tree, basically. Like just over and over again, just smashing my head off of baubles.
Yeah.
And my mum was sort of like, okay, obviously something's not right here. Because when you're younger, you don't learn like from your mistakes. So I just kept going into the bauble. And yeah, we got diagnosed with RP at the age of 2 when it just gradually got worse as I grew up.
Okay. And like, at what point did you realize, I guess, you were different to other people?
Pretty early on, because my parents were always around me, kind of shielding me from danger, whereas all the other kids were running wild. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why I couldn't run wild. Like, how are these kids running around in the dark and not hitting everything? But
Yeah.
you know, I'm bumping into every pole pillar around. Do you know what I mean? So I knew something was different, but I just didn't really understand what until I was probably 7, 8.
And did you go to like a regular school?
Yes,
So-
mainstream education. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
was that? Like,
Primary school was good. Primary school was fine. Secondary school, not so much, because I still had a fair bit of vision. I could still read. I could play football, do all of those kind of things that normal teenage boys do. And then I lost my vision really quickly when I was sort of 14. And then I couldn't do any of the things that I used to do. And I lost a lot of friends because of it. And that probably led to me, as I said earlier, being a bit naughty, acting out a little bit.
why do you think you lost friends because of it?
I mean, probably a multitude of reasons, to be fair. I don't think they knew how to act around a blind child,
Yeah.
which is fair enough.
Just
We're not taught.
ignorance, basically.
Yeah, maybe ignorance, or even just kind of a bit of like, oh, I don't want to upset him maybe, so I'm just going to keep my distance.
Yeah.
But we're never taught, are we, like how to act around people with
No,
disabilities?
never.
So I think it's fair enough. But yeah, I did lose a lot of friends going into sort of sick form
Yeah.
time.
And then when you were coming, I guess, through school and out of school, then you're on to college or university?
Into
straight-
uni, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, straight into uni, counselling psychology.
That's right. When we first met, you hadn't graduated when we met, right?
No, we met in February, about a year ago now, actually.
Yeah.
And I had, a few more months left of uni and graduated in May.
And how was uni for you?
Oh, uni was brilliant.
Yeah.
Uni was fantastic, yeah. I
Which
think
university did you go to?
Chichester,
That's
down on the
right.
south coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stayed down there as well. That's how much uni was like amazing for me. I decided to stay down there.
Yeah.
Good 100 odd miles away from where I'm from originally.
And that's where you met Nat,
That's
your
where I met
lovely
My
girlfriend.
lovely, lovely girlfriend.
Yeah. How did you two meet then at uni?
She was on my course. Do you know, it was really weird. I had to get into this group chat for our course. So every course has a group chat, obviously. And I couldn't get into it for some reason. And so I just messaged someone random. and that person happened to be Nat. And we just kept talking like, oh, you're looking forward to uni, blah, blah, blah. And it just clicked. Something clicked between us. And then, yeah, pretty much 1 week, 2 weeks into university, we're pretty much a couple.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
That quick, yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
She must have liked you then.
I think I was chasing. Honestly, she would say this. She would die on this hill, right?
Yeah.
I was chasing her. And I don't think it was that bad. But she says to me all the time, like, you were chasing me, remember? So, yeah.
So obviously you've gone a different path because of social media, but what was the plan coming out of university? Were you going to get a job in psychology? You're going to be a counsellor, right?
I was going to be a counsellor. A CBT practitioner was the end goal. That would have taken a lot of years.
What is that? What does CBT
Cognitive behavioural therapy.
Okay.
So it's, if you go to an NHS doctor about anxiety, depression, whatever, they're most likely to refer you to something like CBT.
Right.
But it takes a lot of years of training and practice, and quite a lot of the time, because I'm quite young, I'm an August baby. I was coming out of university at the age of 20. They say you need a lot of life experience anyway, so it's unlikely I would have gone straight into a job like that. Yeah,
a lot of people go into that job when they've been through trauma and stuff themselves, right?
Yeah, a lot of the people on my course had kind of harsh backgrounds. Yeah.
And is that what Nat was going to do as well?
Yeah, I think it's really weird. We both had the same kind of aspirations. I don't know whether we kind of like just bounced off of each other and said, that sounds good, let's do it together type of thing. Or we both genuinely wanted to. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But she wanted to go into CBT as well eventually. Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of helped your transition into social media and talking about the topics that you talk about? Do you think going through university and learning what you learned has helped that process in terms of educating people? It
definitely can do. I think one thing that I pride myself on being is completely open and transparent about how I'm feeling, what processes I'm going through, whatever. I don't like to, I try to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
I think it may have helped him in that sense. And what it also helps with is I get a lot of people reach out to me who may be blind or visually impaired, or they may be parents of a child who's going blind.
Yeah.
And it actually takes a lot of composure to talk to them in a way that doesn't sort of upset them or frighten them.
Got you.
So it helps with that.
Why? Because they're quite nervous to talk to you?
Yeah,
or?
They're always asking for advice or I'm terrified, is he going to be able to do this type thing? So it takes a lot of like thinking about how to respond appropriately to them.
Your journey, I was speaking to Amy yesterday about this. Your journey into social media was quite unique. It's kind of an accident, right?
A complete accident.
So talk to me about how it happened, how it came about.
I think I always wanted to be in social media. I always wanted to do YouTube since I was young. I just thought I'd fit into it quite well, but never found like an excuse to do it. So I was at a comedy event. I was at the Russell Howard show, and his support his support act had cerebral palsy. He come on, done his bit, was joking about disabilities. And he picked on me in my front row and said, what's your favourite disability?
Yeah.
And I had my cane with me, so I just held that up, and that went viral on TikTok. Someone clipped that and it went viral. And there were loads of weird questions, like, why has a blind man got sunglasses? Why is he in the front row?
That's what I was looking at yesterday. So I went to go look at that clip again because I was like, I remembered how you got into the industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go look at that video.
Yeah.
And I saw you doing the explainer video about basically trying to debunk that you were not blind.
Yes. Yeah. Because there were so many weird comments. Because everyone's skeptical. That's what I've learned from being in social media. Everyone's a cynic.
Everyone thinks it's fake.
100%.
Which is literally the craziest thing you could think of. Like, why would you pretend?
Attention, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. But I answered in my own video, on my own account, first ever video. I'd never even touched TikTok before in my life.
Yeah.
Even through lockdown, all I heard was just TikTok songs on Natalie's phone. I'd never touched it.
Yeah.
And that video just went crazy. So I thought, okay, let's just keep going and see what happens. And then you came into my life.
Have you heard the story about how I found your profile? Have I ever told you?
No.
Well, I'm going to.
Go on.
So we obviously run a talent agency, and my friends know that I work with influencers and content creators. And one of my best friends, who was one of the best men at my wedding, was on the toilet scrolling TikTok as you do, and he sent me your profile, and he was like, "You've got to speak to this guy. He's hilarious." Because at that point, you probably shared, mate, I want to say 3 videos.
No way.
Yeah. It was super early on, and I probably gave it like a week because at the time we weren't in the position really to take on more talent. We didn't have a big enough team. But a week went by. I was watching your videos, and I was getting fed your videos then because of the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you know what? I'm not gonna. And this might seem like a tactic, but I swear to God, it wasn't. I promise it was not a tactic. But I was like, I'm just going to reach out to Toby because I know there's going to be so many people trying to now work with you. And there's great people in the industry, but there's also some sketchy people in the industry. Yeah. And I just wanted to be like, I remember messaging you and just saying, if you ever need any advice, let me know. And then like 2 weeks later, you signed with us, which is amazing. And I'm so glad that now that's happened. But yeah, so you need to thank Kieran for going to the toilet, scrolling TikTok. And I need to thank him. And he always says to me, when am I getting my percentage of Toby?
Is it coming out my paycheck?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Kieran. That is weird, isn't it? I mean, I was living on people's For You page in that first week.
Yeah.
The algorithm
You were
just loved me.
everywhere.
Literally everywhere. It was crazy. I haven't seen that growth since, genuinely. So I'm not surprised that I was like on someone's TikTok while they were taking a poo. But I did think it was a tactic at the time when you messaged me, and I was like, they might want to sign me.
You did think it was a tactic?
I did. I was like, well, surely. But then I was like, why would they want to sign me? Because you approached me when I had about 20k followers. I was like,
I remember. I swear to God, honestly, it wasn't a tactic. I genuinely just remember thinking. The thing is, especially at that time, there was a lot of new agencies, and I remember having some bad experiences with some of them. And I remember just thinking, somebody is going to message Toby, sign him up, and I don't want what happened to some of the other creators we work with to happen to you.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the growth because I think the first time I saw one of your videos, it was like 20k in your following. Next one, it was like 30k, like next day, and I was like, he's going to blow up here. So I remember that first couple of weeks, you were just asking me questions about, I think, contracts really. And brands and things like that. And I was just like, I was speaking to Amy. I was like, we need to work with you. Like you would, because I could tell. The thing is, because this is what was interesting about your journey to being a creator. I guess you didn't have a plan to be a creator. Like,
no.
You were going to be a counselor. You were at university. You had your like life planned out. And I remember you saying like it's quite a big risk to throw that away. So what was that process like? Because so if that was the February, graduating in the June?
May.
Yeah. Like, so you had what? A few months?
Yeah, 3 months.
To decide.
I was applying to jobs. I was applying for full-time NHS jobs when we were discussing
You just had to pull out.
The thing is I remember sending you a message as well, and this was almost a tactic for me. It was like, I'd love to work with you guys.
Oh, so you're the one with the tactic, right? Got
I'm sneaky, honestly, the reverse card. And I remember talking to Nat about this like extensively because obviously we kind of come as a duo.
Yeah.
Because I can't do all of the editing and filming myself in a way that would, one, be good, and two, is sustainable.
Yeah.
It just takes too long. So we were like, what do we do? And obviously our families were kind of a bit skeptical about it. They were like, so we tried to pull on advice, but we were really dissuaded from it by a lot of people. But then, we just thought, well, let's see what happens for a year. Realistically, we're told to get life experience. Okay, let's see what we can do. If we earn a few grand along the way, great, of course. So it was just had to take that jump, and it worked out.
How did because even my parents have no idea what I really do. So how did your family take that conversation? Like, do you remember going up to them and being like, I'm not going to get my counsellor job, I'm going to do this full time?
I had to say it in some way, but they wanted me to use my degree. Yeah. Because I'd think I'd make a good counsellor personally.
Yeah.
And they said, like, you can make a difference in the world. I was like, but I can make a difference here as well. And I can reach so many more people. Yeah. And they came around to it quite quickly. I think once they saw the growth I was getting, and then you guys came up with some amazing partnerships within the first week of signing, that sold them.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I got Gymshark.
I remember that was
3 days
one.
in.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here then? And I think that's when they saw, okay, let's see where it goes. And now actually they say to me, keep pushing it. You've got such a good opportunity.
Massive.
Like, keep working hard.
And I guess that hopefully you're a creator forever and you just use your platform for what you're doing now. But that counselor degree isn't going anywhere.
That's
like
what
your
I
degree's
always
not,
say.
your degree's there forever, right? Like
Plan
you're
B
not
is
having to
great.
retrain anytime.
No. That degree's always there. The experience is always there. Any like volunteering stuff, my CV will stay the same. And actually getting older is a good thing in that world.
Yeah.
So
Plan B, still 21, right?
Still 21.
Well, I'm glad because we speak to so many creators and their parents, like obviously are skeptical. Like the thing with this industry is the average age of the people doing well is so young. And I think that especially we as agencies have a real responsibility to make sure that we are looking after the people we manage, because I can imagine every parent in the country when their son or daughter is saying, I want to be a content creator. The first question is, how does that even make money? Like, how are you going to live?
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that they were cool with it.
I think that what I was saying about getting the like campaigns right off the bat is what helped, because otherwise they would just like, well, how do you make money? I was like, just wait. I don't even know myself really at the minute.
I was going to say, did you have an idea of how it worked prior to signing?
The thing is, there can be so many different revenue streams.
Yeah.
And obviously campaigns are the biggest one, at least for myself.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know how they'd come in. So you get weird ones in and you're like, and especially at the beginning, you feel very inclined to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Just because
you never know what's coming next. Yeah.
Well, it's even now I still feel pressure to say yes. Not that you have ever put pressure on me. It's more like it's my, I need to pay my bills type thing. But it's a weird one because we got those partnerships in straight away. I was like, okay, this is how it works. But if they hadn't have come in, I don't know what kind of mindset I would have been in with it, to be honest. It's very taboo, really, because no one talks about it.
Where does the pressure come from then in terms of you taking a campaign? Is it the fact that, because realistically, you've still not been doing it that long.
No. I'm not experienced in the world of media at all, really. Yeah. I'm still a newbie to it. But I'm experienced enough now to... And I think mature enough as well is a big thing to evaluate what's a good campaign and what's not a good campaign.
Yeah.
You kind of go through a bit of a checklist in your head, like, does this fit with my audience?
Yeah.
I had a good conversation with Tal, actually, who's obviously my main manager, about different brands to work with. And she pointed out things like, does that fit your audience? I was like, maybe not. And that's when we have conversations about that. And that's what's great about having a management team, is you can bounce ideas off of them.
Yeah.
But the pressure does come obviously financially, because you do, especially in today's world, there's so much to pay for. And we all want to have nice lives, of course we do. So that's where the pressure comes from. It's definitely internal, about your life and sustainability and all that kind of stuff.
You raise a good point though about like the brand campaign fitting your audience. So now when you are thinking about a brand campaign, what's that process like in terms of determining whether or not it does fit for your audience?
Age.
Yeah.
The good thing with me is on my analytics, my age is quite spread.
Yeah.
Which is good from a marketing perspective, obviously.
Yeah.
Do I even like the brand? Would I use them? Would I recommend them? I'm only going to sort of work with brands that I'd endorse myself. And kind of, obviously you have to look at what they want out of a campaign as well. Does it fit with what I want the campaign to give me and my audience? Because sometimes I've had it before, especially when I was less experienced, and I said yes to a campaign, and their like ideas for how the campaign would go ahead were completely different to mine, and it just didn't work at all. And I was so glad to get that campaign behind me.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'd say no to it straight away after like looking at the brief.
Yeah. How do you go about making content for your own page? Is very different to making content for a brand. So how does your mindset change when you are working with a brand when making content?
It depends on the usage, really. Like,
obviously,
if you do a campaign, it can go on your page only. It can go on their page only, or it can go on both. So obviously, if it's just going on their pages, then I'll do more of what they envisage, of course, because it's not obviously it's my content, but it's not going on my pages to my audiences.
When you first started, and I distinctly remember this because it's part of why I just loved your content, it was quite comical. Like you'd make a lot of jokes, and I remember you getting a bit of hate sometimes for it. I remember Nat getting some hate for it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, You've got to balance out your content because
Yeah.
otherwise it just gets same old, same old.
Yeah.
A lot of it's educational, you know.
Yeah.
How do I do this as a blind man? What does this type of blindness do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to make, especially with my personality, I like my personality to reflect in my content. I am jokey, I'm silly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do these kind of comical skit type videos. And yeah, Nat got a bit of hate in them. Actually, I think that was a newspaper article written about her because they took the video completely out of context.
It was like the benefits of dating a blind guy.
The benefits,
and
of
it was like so tongue in cheek. It was actually, and I remember it distinctly. It was quite a loving video to you.
There was a lot of
and for anybody to take it
Yeah.
the wrong way. And I remember her getting that hate.
She got loads.
Yeah.
That actually, if you went back and looked at that, the comment section is crazy. Like some people obviously found it funny, but a lot of them were like, well, she's clearly just using you then for your disabled badge or what? Do you know what I mean? Just ridiculous comments.
You at this point, you've been together, what, 3 years?
Yeah, 2.5
So for someone
3
to
years,
say she's using you is ridiculous.
it's absolutely ridiculous.
That is the one thing about TikTok that I've noticed is I don't know if it's the algorithm or the people on it. The comment section is as brutal as any platform I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think after that, you don't see Nat in a video for a long, long time.
Really? So it affected her quite a lot?
Yeah, she hated it.
Really?
I'm very thick-skinned. Say anything to me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take any comment and just laugh at you if it's mean or malicious. She hates it.
So what made her come back into the videos then? Just time?
She was reluctant.
Yeah.
The thing is, the videos, she was torn because the videos we do together do well.
Yeah.
Because naturally, if you're curious about a blind person, you're curious about the people around them.
Yeah.
And people wanted to know, like, what's it like living with a blind person? And there was so much that she could offer because she's actually really articulate as well and gets across information really well. It was a big step for her, and then I think she got a bit more hate and she actually took it more on the chin and just laughed at it. I don't know if like that was just, you know, being strong on the outside or if she genuinely just took it on the chin. I don't know. But yeah, she seems to get a lot more hate than me. I get very little hate. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Like my comment section towards myself is actually relatively nice.
Yeah.
For TikTok at least.
So I guess, how did it feel when Nat was getting hate? Like for you? Like did you take it more personally almost when it was Nat?
Say anything to me,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But when you're saying about other people who don't deserve it, then I get annoyed and upset because you never want to, especially when you see the impact. Maybe I wouldn't have minded as much if she, you know, may have just laughed at it or whether that she didn't, and that's absolutely fine. And therefore it upset me as well. So I think there was also a point where she, you know, maybe didn't want to be as involved in the whole media stuff. And I would have maybe had to look to someone like an editor maybe to help me out.
Yeah.
Because it did upset her that much, bless her. Because some of the comments really weren't nice. So yeah, it was upsetting for me as well. But
It's like your partner in crime, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's one of the things that also stood out when I first started working with you is you and Nat were a team, and you are a team. It's not changed anything, and that kind of resonated with me because Amy and I are a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I saw you two, I was like, that's amazing that you're doing it together. So that must have been a tough period where she's kind of like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite early on as well. It was
Yeah.
like only maybe a month or so in.
Yeah.
So it was a bump in the road, but we are a team. Like if anything, she does more than me. Like I'm the ugly face you see on the camera. Do you know what I mean? Like just chatting waffle.
Yeah.
But she's the one making me look good. Do you know what I mean? Like doing all the editing, all the filming, all of the cuts, putting the
I think
music
people
in.
forget that, don't they?
They do. And a lot of people think I do it by myself, and she doesn't get anywhere near as much credit as she should. Do you know what I mean? Like we split whatever we make from campaigns 50-50. If anything, she should get more than that, really.
How do you, when it is targeted at you, the negative comments and the hate and the abuse, how do you handle it? And you say you're thick-skinned, but I'm assuming now and again there is a comment here and there that does hit home a little bit.
I can't lie. I love it. Like, the thing is, I come from a very bantery background. I'm a football lad growing up. You slate each other.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it. There are ones that annoy me. The arrogant comments, the ones like, how's he reading the comments? Bro's not blind. Do you know what I mean? Like when they put the skull emoji, I want to rip my hair out. That emoji's like a kick in the teeth, honestly. I hate that emoji so much.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that I get annoyed more than anything and frustrated. I don't think there's ever been a comment that's like gone straight to my heart and been like, oof. Do you know what I mean? but I've definitely had some comments that would affect other people in that way. So I'd never ever encourage them. And sometimes I do delete those comments because I don't want other people to see them.
Yeah, like your followers to see it. What about your like? Because we've had creators who, and we did a documentary on it last year, and we were speaking to the parents of one of our creators and talking to them about how it affects them to see their kids get hate.
Yeah,
was brutal to hear it.
Yeah, my mum wants to reply to every comment.
Yeah,
honestly.
I was going to say, like, how does she take it when she sees that or reads that, or does she now just kind of not read the comments?
I think curiosity gets the better of my parents.
Yeah.
I really think they do.
Because there's so much positivity in there as well, so they probably want to read it and see that positive side of it.
Well, yeah, they're so proud of it.
Yeah.
Like, which is weird for me, you know, because they're quite, you know, they wanted me to obviously go down the route I was going down. So for them to be proud of it's amazing and pushes me on every day. They read through the comments and they get upset and say, what the is that person talking about? I don't know if I can swear.
Neither do I. Let's just roll with it.
You know, they say, what is that person going on about? I want to put them in their place type thing. Like, that's my son. Do you know? But I don't think they ever would. But yeah, I think it does get to them sometimes. So I do just say to them, look, just don't go through it. You can't really complain about it because you should know, you should expect it, unfortunately. Not that it's right.
That's the question though, isn't it? Should you expect it?
I think you have to.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one comment, but you've got in 100 videos that are all positive and you get one comment, like, you'd be naive to say, oh, where's that come from? Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting because we've spoke to a lot of people, whether it's lawyers or people from the platforms, about regulations and rules to stop the hate and to stop as much, you know, trolling. But I tend to think that's not the solution. That's just a plaster over the issue, because you're not fixing the underlying issue of people giving people hate because they think they're, you know, they don't, because, you know, you can be anonymous online. Yeah. But that's not fixing the issue. You're just blocking the issue from happening.
No, it's more deep rooted than that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Where is that hate coming from? And let's fix that instead of just plastering over it.
It's almost a culture now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's cool to take the mick out of someone, especially online, because there aren't consequences. Maybe that is part of the problem, is there isn't consequences.
Yeah,
massively. You are massively right in saying it's coming from somewhere else to begin with.
When you were in school, I'm trying to think ages here and what technology you had. Did you have what social media did you have when you were in like high school?
Instagram. Yeah, that was it. I think.
Because my God, I'm going to sound old now. Do you remember what MSN was?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No, I do. You send little messages to your friends like, so and so is online now.
As soon as you got home, and that was the extent of taking conversations with people in school home. Yeah. So did you have people messaging you when you were at home on Instagram when you were in school?
Yeah, I guess I had Snapchat as well. Snapchat, Instagram, right. Ask FM.
No, see, I'm too old.
Oh, that's a whole other story, man. Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, I would talk a lot to friends outside of school.
Because that's the big thing for me now, is thinking about having a daughter and thinking when I was at school and if somebody made fun of you or bullied you, that was kind of it. Don't go on MSN and you're good. Whereas now you're getting DM'd constantly. So did you ever get bullied in school on social media?
I don't think I got picked on because of, you know, my disability. Yeah. It just is what it is. I don't think I ever got bullied because I'd always stand up for myself. Yeah. It's just in my nature. Yeah. I can't help myself. But I remember there was a video of me just walking straight into a pole.
In school?
Yeah, in school. Just someone had taken this video of me walking into a pole because I couldn't see it. It wasn't... Right. I'd never been to this place before, I don't think. I just walked straight into it. I think it was scaffolding, actually. And that circulated round on social media, like, look at this idiot, like, he's so
somebody
blind.
Posted it.
Yeah. And I remember being like, what'd you get out of that? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I guess, is that bullying?
Did they get in trouble with the school because of that?
No.
See, that's the thing, the consequences aren't severe enough for people that do stuff like that, because like you just said, you're quite thick-skinned and you're like, okay, that's not funny, but I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah, whatever.
But for a lot of people, disabled or not, that's humiliating. Yeah. And that's the thing. There's just not enough, like you say, consequences anymore for those kind of things. And until there are those consequences, you're not going to stop people from doing it. But you do have to get back to the underlying thing of why are people so it's so weird to me. I know that so many of these people that comment on our creators' posts, if they saw them in the street, not only would they not say anything, they might
want a
run up
picture.
to them
They
for
want
a
a picture.
photo.
Yeah.
And yet they think that online they can just say whatever they want. And it really does affect a lot of creators. Like, what would you say to your followers? And maybe they've asked you this before, but what would you say to them if they are getting bullied online or they are getting hate? Like, how would you, like, what's your mindset in terms of dealing with that?
I think from a content perspective, if you're getting hate, I think number one, and this shouldn't be the case, but if I was giving advice out, it would be try to make content that is as little controversial as possible.
Yeah.
Don't give them an excuse type thing. And that's such a horrible thing to have to say. Like, why can't you just make content freely and not
But
worry
are you
about,
talking
do know
also
what I mean?
about your, like, the more comedic stuff that you've been doing?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then that's just sad. Like,
know.
like, to stop you from making the content that you find funny so that you don't get hate is tough.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, and even me, like the thick-skinned person I am, I considered not doing that type of content again.
Yeah.
To be fair, so there's not one bit of advice I could give, but I think as long as you're making content you enjoy, and it's such a hard thing to talk about, isn't it? Because everybody's different. Everybody reacts to it differently. Yeah. And that's the psychology in it. Is you can't just give one bit of advice to sort it out.
I knew I was talking to the right person, the person that did a psychology degree.
Well, I haven't helped you out at all, though.
No, you have, mate. I think you're going to help a lot of people, not just from talking today, but your content in general is so, like we were talking about on the way over here, it's so raw.
Yeah,
like the subject matter of it is so raw, and it is helping. I know it is, because I see the comments and I see the growth, and it is helping so many people, because there just aren't that many creators who are blind, at least with a big following. So and this is a question I wanted to ask you. Do you now feel almost a sense of responsibility to keep making content, to kind of spread that message?
Yeah, I think responsibility is a really strong word, because I'm not obliged to do anything. Yeah. But I do feel like a moral sense of responsibility to help these people out, because I've like seen the impact that it's had. And that's kind of drives me on to keep doing it. If this wasn't my job, I'd still make content. Yeah. If I wasn't earning a penny from it.
Which is where you should be.
Yeah, 100%. If you're in it just for financial gain, then you're not going to go far, unfortunately. So yeah, I'd keep making content. I keep spreading messages. I keep answering DMs, just because I wish I had that person when I was younger. Yeah. I had so many questions.
That for me is the biggest positive about social media. Yeah. Is those messages that get spread, because we now have the platform. And the question is, does that outweigh the negatives of social media?
For me, yes.
Yeah.
It depends what kind of area of content creation you're in. Like, if you need help or advice or someone to relate to, you will find someone. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's about disability or financial help or bereavement, you will find something online. And that's like, it's almost magical that you can do that at your fingertips now. Find someone else who's gone through the experiences that you're going through. I think it does outweigh it, as long as you're okay getting consistently berated. Do you know what I mean? I personally think it does, but I reckon some people would disagree.
It's a really tough question. I don't think there's one right answer. And the other thing is, I think it's going to change over the next few years, and see where the platforms go. You know, platforms being banned, new regulations coming in. Yeah. Talk to me about your, obviously you work with Nat super close to make content. Talk to me about the practicalities of you and Nat shooting content together. Do you have a schedule to shoot? Do you just shoot when like inspiration hits? How do you go about even just coming up with your video ideas?
I'm in quite a small niche. Yeah. There's only so much I can talk about. Yeah. Coming up with ideas can be difficult sometimes. Yeah. And a lot of the time you just have to spin off of what you've done before. The thing with TikTok, which is obviously the main platform I'm on, is it rarely gets to your followers. It's on the For You page. It's reaching people that don't follow you a lot of the time. And that means you can kind of recycle content, do it in a different way, talk about it in a new way, evolve that bit of content. So that's a lot of what I work on now, because new ideas are hard. I've spoken about pretty much every experience I can as a blind person. So it's all about evolving as a creator, and how can we change this? How can we adapt this? The practicalities of it get difficult because working from home 24/7 is challenging because you don't have that routine.
Yeah.
We'd love a routine. Honestly, we would love one, like sit down, have breakfast, get cracking, have lunch, get cracking, finish, and you're done for the day. But we don't have that.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it is, should we do this then? Should we do that? Should we go out and get this bit of content?
I think that is the hard thing about being a creator. And I think we speak to a lot of creators and they have very different ways of doing things. I know certain creators that do have a routine and they'll only film on certain days of the week, for example. Or they'll wake up at a certain time every day and make sure they film in the morning or the evening or whatever it may be. But the vast majority of creators don't do that. And before you know it, they're in this kind of, I'd say, quite a toxic spiral of waking up late, staying up late, things like that. So how do you, because obviously you're quite a fit guy, you go to the gym, you eat well, you play football, which we'll get onto in a bit. But how do you at least stay in a semi-decent routine?
I've always been someone who hates the idea of like getting up late. I hate being in bed until 10, 11 o'clock. So, and also having the dog has helped with that because I need to get up. I've got a reason to get up.
When they're like licking your face, you can't really stay in bed after that.
Go away.
Yeah.
So that has helped. But I've always been someone who, likes to crack on with their day and get things done. I think this toxic spiral you talk about is so common because a lot of my friends that I have in social media, they're all the same. Yeah, I've rolled out of bed at 11, had a meeting to do, and then the rest of the day I've done my content for the day if you upload daily. And that's sometimes all you have to do. And that's not great for your kind of mindset around working.
No.
Because sometimes it really doesn't feel like a job. Sometimes it's hectic, and there's been days where I've been working from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 in the evening because I've had to get so much done, travel around, do different meetings, bits and bobs. But there have been days where you sit there, you're like, I need to do something, but I've got nothing to do. And that.
So how do you keep that motivation? Because that's the other thing that we speak to creators about is because they don't have a 9 to 5, which is a good thing in itself. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They find it difficult to find that motivation to get up, be creative, because it is a creative thing you need to do. Even if you're just making a basic video, you still need to be somewhat creative with your lighting and your angles and that kind of stuff. What's your kind of process in terms of keeping your motivation up? Like, is it even just, not to put ideas in your head, but is it Nat? Like, is it good to have Nat who's like, come on, let's do this? And then the next day when Nat doesn't have the motivation, you have motivation.
The thing is, we feed off of each other.
Yeah.
So if one's good, the other one's good. If the other's bad, the other's bad.
Got you.
So we're never kind of opposites. I mean, obviously there are times. Motivation is driven by success and by like your own perception of success. So for me, that could be, video's done well and I've gotten a lot of engagement from that and I've reached a lot of people. Let's keep going. Let's do more. Or it could be, I'm in a rut with my views. I don't even want to make content. What's the point? So for me, that motivation kind of comes through success, which can be unhealthy at times. But for me, I've always noticed when my videos are doing well, I'm up earlier, I'm filming more content, I'm brainstorming, I'm, liaising with Tao a lot on what brands to work with, who can we reach, do you know what I mean? Whereas when I'm not doing so well, I definitely, and you could probably ask Tao this and she might say the same, is I get a bit more distant. So that's something that I personally need to work on, which is difficult, but motivation is such an important part of this industry.
So how, because that's the interesting thing, because I think that's the same for so many people. If you're doing well, life's good, right?
Yeah.
When you're not doing well, that's where you really need to find that kick. So when you have, when you've had those bad days, how have you got out of that?
I try to find like pleasure or that success that I want in other things, whether that's football or going to the gym or something like that, something on the side that you work on that isn't directly related to your job. Because if you're doing well in other parts of your life, you're more likely to, be more overall motivated. I think on the days where the job doesn't feel like a job, that's great. I'm really highly motivated to do well in it. It's when it starts to feel like a job and a drag, that's when you need to start looking for other sources of motivation.
That's such a good answer. And I think it's so important to make sure that it's hard, isn't it? Because they tell you to, if you're gonna try and be successful in something, you have to double down and give everything to it, which is, I agree. Like, I don't like this message of you can half-arse anything and still do well.
No.
But equally, if it is your be all and end all, then your mood and your motivation is dictated by whether or not it's going well or your job is going well. So having those other things, whether it's Nat or the dog or football or friends, whatever it may be, you have to get outside of your job. So if you're a content creator, go and see your friends, go and see your family, you know, and if you do, or go and do a hobby that has nothing to do with content creation, because then if, you know, your views dip, which everybody really cares about, or if your engagement goes down, or you don't have the motivation to post or whatever it may be, maybe you can pull your motivation from elsewhere. Football. Talk to me. Chelsea?
Unfortunately.
Not the best at the moment.
I'm struggling, honestly. I'm in a bad way, Emilio. I'm in a bad way.
I don't know much about you. Can you change team? You probably can't change team, right?
I mean, I wouldn't, but I mean, people do. But I'm not going to just become a Man City fan all of a sudden.
No, glory hunter.
Not me.
But you mentioned that you played football in school.
Yes.
And then I'm assuming you stopped playing for a few years? Because when we first met, you weren't playing, right?
I had some injury.
You had some injury, and we were talking about football, and you said you really wanted to get into it. And next minute, here you are playing for like one of the top teams in the country. So talk to me about, because I remember watching one of your first videos, and you started doing something with the England football team, right?
Yeah. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, "Do you want to come try this? Come try this." And one of the ones that stuck out was blind football. I've always been curious. And it just turned out that one of England's best players, Brandon, lived in kind of Portsmouth way, which at the time was only sort of a 20-minute drive from where I was.
Yeah.
And he's like, come give it a go. You know, maybe you can get some content if you want. I was like, oh, bro, I'm not going to turn down free content.
No.
And so, yeah, I went and gave it a go. First of all, the level that he was playing at blew my mind. Like, I was flabbergasted.
Had you ever played it before?
No. I'd kind of messed around a bit with my eyes shut and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Never properly. And like, I went into it thinking I was going to be a bit slow, a bit sloppy.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Really?
I was honestly, I was mind blown. And then I gave it a go. I was rubbish. I was absolutely crap. Can you beat that out?
Yeah.
I was rubbish. And
I think we'll leave that in.
You'll leave that in?
That'll be fine.
I was crap.
Yeah, no, it'll be fine.
So he was like, oh yeah, you can come back, give it a go. Maybe we'll get you training a bit. I was like, oh yeah, fat chance, mate. Like, I'm not coming back to do this, comparing myself to him.
Yeah.
And I did go back.
Yeah.
And I kept going back. And something clicked all of a sudden, and I was invited to go and sign over with Brighton.
Who are one of the top teams,
One of the top. I mean, there aren't too many teams, as you can imagine. The talent pool's not massive.
How many teams are in your league then?
There's actually only 4 now.
Okay.
I think there's definitely scope to have more, but...
Is that like the top, like, is it called the Prem?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the top one, the top league, I should say.
Yeah, you've got the Championship where players from those teams kind of play against each other, but who maybe wouldn't fare too well in the Premier League.
Got you. So within a year, less than a year, 6 months, you've gone from not playing to Prem.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. You've got to give yourself a pat on the back because of that.
I was scared. It's a scary sport.
I bet.
Honestly, like, because obviously I've still got light perception, so I can see.
So talk to me about that. So how does that work?
What is in football?
Yeah, or just day-to-day life. So you can see some light.
Yeah,
right?
so like we've got a light to my left, lighting up my lovely face, and I can tell that there's something there.
Yeah.
So that's really the extent of it, is like shadows and light.
But then when you're playing football, you've got to put
a blindfold on because some players are obviously completely blind and will see nothing. So it's not fair if I can maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to see anything, but there's people who can see more than me who are classed as blind. So yeah, we put the blindfold on and you've got these absolute units just running around the pitch. Like,
I've watched it, yeah.
It's mad. I'm relatively tall.
Yeah.
And I weighed a fair bit when I first started.
Yeah.
And like, I was minuscule compared to these guys.
Really?
It's ridiculous. I remember in my first game, I played against a fella called Dan English, and he's about 6'4", about 100 kilograms.
Yeah.
And one of England's best players. And I was terrified. Honestly, I was shaking. But, you know, that's what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
People always say make yourself uncomfortable, and then you'll get comfortable in that situation.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
A few months down the line now, I'm pretty confident on the pitch.
And what's the next steps in that kind of league then? So is it playing for England? Is that what you want to do next?
England's the goal.
Yeah.
I'm currently playing in a European league. So we've travelled to Belgium, Germany, Romania, Italy, all these places to play against teams across Europe.
That's insane.
And it's effectively an England under 23 squad. So
You don't
technically,
have
I'm
to keep
playing
telling me
at that
how
level.
young you are, Toby. You're
Under
rubbing it
23s.
in.
I could play under 21s.
Cheers. Thanks, Toby.
No worries, mate. Don't know where you'd fit in.
Under. Do you know what's so funny? Do you remember? It's still on, but X Factor.
Yeah.
I remember being 18.
Yeah.
Or like even younger than that, and being like, God, those over 25s are so old. And now
my God,
I'm
I
so
forgot about
in the over
You
25s.
are. You're quite a long way in, mate.
Thanks,
If
Toby.
you'd nearly go into like a veteran zone if they had one.
I'm actually really worried about how grey my hair's going to look compared to yours. How does it work in terms of practically the game? So like, how long is the game? Like, talk to me about the practicalities of the actual game.
So each half is actually only 15 minutes.
Right.
But it's stop clock. So every time a ball goes out,
Really?
we stop the play. A lot of, well, not a lot, but
Kind of like
sometimes.
American football vibes.
Yeah, in that sense. You get a lot of injuries as well, so players will be down for a bit, need treatment, whatever, the clock will stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 halves of that. You're allowed timeouts as well because you need to give quite a lot of feedback as a coach. Obviously, you're the eyes of the whole team.
Yeah.
So you need to, whether it's tactically or, someone's not quite doing their job right.
Yeah.
You rely on your teammates a hell of a lot.
Yeah, I
because you
bet.
can't just check over your shoulder and be like, oh yeah,
No,
he's in the right spot.
communication has got to be key, right?
Exactly, it's the biggest part.
Yeah.
If you don't have good communication, you'll never ever get anywhere near playing at the top level.
Yeah.
It's like how much good information can you give in the shortest sentence possible?
Yeah.
So we do work on that. And yeah, there's rules about saying certain things to your opponents so they don't just run
really?
into you. Yeah, if you
What
don't,
can't you say?
it's more about what you have to say. So
Got you. Okay.
there's the word voy, which translates to I am here. In Spanish, I think it's just a universal word we use.
Yeah.
You have to say that if you're going in for a tackle on a
Right.
player with the ball.
What happens if you don't say it?
It's a foul. I think you might get booked actually. So yeah, you have to say that like kind of
But
2
surely you
meters
forget
before.
all the time.
That's
just
drilled into you. You
Oh,
kind
okay.
of run around the pitch just going, voy, voy, voy.
It's constantly.
Literally, that's all you
constantly
hear.
tackling people.
Honestly, yeah. So, and if the ball's gone loose as well, like say
Yeah.
no one has the ball, but you're running onto it, you have to say voy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's reliance on others, and you have to really back yourself to know where you are on the pitch and say the right things and do the right things.
And
It's so
how
draining.
do you know where the ball is?
It's got a rattle in it,
got
so
a
they have ball
rattle.
bearings in.
Okay.
And it's kind of encased in this metal paneling inside the ball, so it makes quite a loud noise. To be honest, if I was to shake it in here, it'd be really loud.
So there's metal
Yeah,
within.
yeah, yeah.
You can't feel that. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
when
you can. Yeah.
Really?
Honestly, the first time I played, I thought I broke my foot.
Just a lot harder than normal
Oh, it's
football.
so hard.
Really?
It's honestly, if like the goalkeepers have to pad themselves up so much, like hockey goalkeepers
God,
almost.
yeah, I bet.
It's crazy. So yeah, if
Do
you
you have
kick
to wear
the ball, it
different
hurts.
boots?
You have to pick your boots wisely.
Yeah, you
The
can't
more
wear like really
experienced
thin.
players- No,
boots.
the more experienced players do because they're used to it. Your
Yeah.
feet just adapt.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
boots are very thick. I mean, I also have padded socks as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Are they?
you have to
'Cause
pad
I
up.
was watching some clips of you playing. You're very good, but
Cheers, mate.
the goalkeepers, they're not blind, right?
No, they're fully sighted.
Okay.
They're fully sighted. They have this tiny little box to operate in, like well smaller than this table. I think we're at a table.
Yes, yes.
We are. And they're kind of like the guide for the defenders. And people are always like, well, the goal's smaller and you've got sighted goalkeepers. Like, how do they let goals in? But we hit those balls so hard.
Yeah, and it's such like close range to
We
one
get so
another.
close. Like, I could get 2 yards out and have a shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if you're putting it in the corner, it doesn't matter how small the goal is, the keeper's not going to get to it. So, yeah, they're a big part of it. They're very brave as well, to be fair, because you've got people clattering into them as well a lot of the
I
time.
bet. What's your, how often are you training? How often are you playing? Is it a big commitment?
When I'm injury free, yeah, it's a massive commitment. It's a
Yeah.
lifestyle. Like
Okay.
a lot, the England boys are on contracts like professionally.
Yeah.
So they get paid to do it, not like a big amount by
I was
any
going to
means.
say, like, what's the funding like in football?
It's better than you'd expect, but not as good as it should be. Because disability sport isn't funded great.
Yeah.
Let's be real. You're never going to have a blind footballer on, 50 grand a year. It's just not feasible. Like the lads still have full-time jobs as well. But we get the funding from the FA to go abroad. Obviously, as I said, we've been to Germany, Italy, and I'm not even anywhere near the England squad.
Yeah.
So if I get those opportunities, then it's in a good place.
Yeah.
But there can obviously always be more.
Why do you think that the funding just isn't there? Is it is it a choice, or is it just the fact that the coverage of those games aren't there, so then the sponsorship's not there?
What does blind football give back economically?
Yeah.
The FA are only like investing, if you
Yeah.
think about it. The reason footballers get paid so much is because they bring that money back. You know, it all circulates around. The money's not there from blind football. We don't have like commercial deals, advertisements. You know, I play for
Do you have
Brighton.
sponsors though?
Well, I play for Brighton, but it's a charity affiliated to Brighton.
Right. Okay.
So I guess Brighton helps finance it slightly, but it's a charity. It rolls off of people. So yeah, it always comes back to that argument, doesn't it? Like, why would the fund? It's good that the funding's there in the first place, considering we don't really contribute much economically back.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to put that head on and be sensible about it. I think it's quite naive to say like, oh, just pump the money in, you've got it. It's like, why would they? They're a business at the end of the day. They can't do that.
The devil's advocate argument would be maybe if the game was pushed a bit more coverage wise, maybe it would bring some.
That's what I'm
money.
trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what
Bring
because
some
I've got the
awareness
platform to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. The thing is, if the FA gave us more funding, you've then got the deaf teams, the cerebral palsy teams.
Yeah.
There's even, you know, power chair football where they play in wheelchairs. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You know, you've got amputee. Where does it stop? Then it goes down to grassroots. You've got, you know, it kind of has to stop somewhere.
Yeah.
It's good, in my opinion. Obviously, it can be better, but it's good that we have the opportunity to play in the first place and we've got the resources to do
Yeah.
that.
So you aren't paid until you get to the England team.
Yeah, and then some of the players, if they're not regulars in that first team, aren't on contracts either.
Okay.
It's just for sort of the staples in the team get paid.
Did you have the opportunity to play football at university, or did they not have those facilities?
I think they did like taster things.
Did you ever go then?
No, I didn't know I wasn't aware of it, sorry.
Yeah.
I think these taster days are really good, but it's almost kind of just like, it feels as though they're doing it because they have to do it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, oh, we've got to include disability somewhere. What better way to do it than this? Do you know
It's
what I
not
mean?
really thought through. Or
Yeah,
anything.
I think it was a bit like poorly run potentially.
Yeah.
That's me. I don't know for sure. Like
Yeah.
that's just me speculating.
Well, I mean,
That's
if you
what it
didn't
feels
hear
like.
about it,
Well,
then
yeah,
you
exactly.
didn't hear about it. So,
Yeah.
because like maybe, you know, that's another reason why the game hasn't grown as much as it should, is because at the grassroots level, it's just not pushed.
Had
as
you
much.
heard of blind football before
I'd heard of it,
creation
but
of
I'd
it?
never watched it. Never, because again, why would I go watch it?
Well,
I'd
yeah.
go watch, you know, Chelsea play it, because that's what's been pushed towards me.
Well,
Is
exactly.
the Champions League and
Yeah.
the Premiership and the World Cup and whatever. So that's what gets pushed towards me. But so yeah, no, until I put it this way as well, I had no idea about the rules
Yeah.
or how it worked until we met.
Neither did I, and I'm blind.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue. I knew it was a thing, but like I said, when I went and played with Brandon for the first time, I never knew what level you could get to.
Yeah.
If people knew about it, I genuinely think people would watch it.
Yeah,
If it was on
same.
Sky Sports on a weekend, I genuinely think it would
It's
pull an
an
audience.
incredibly impressive thing to watch.
It's ridiculous.
Like watching you, and to be fair, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but watching how much better you are now than when you first
Oh, yeah.
started. Because
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
those first few videos with Brandon that you put out.
Yeah.
And now seeing how much better you are
Yeah.
is so impressive.
I'm very proud, to be fair, of where I've got. I think it's because I
Should
played
be.
football when I was younger. I've got the natural
Yeah.
like movement
You're
of a
used to
footballer.
yeah.
I know what a ball at my feet should feel like
Yeah.
and what I need to do. There's a lot of players who come in who were blind from birth, never seen football, don't necessarily know how to move their bodies in the most efficient ways, may struggle a little bit. That's maybe why my progression's been so
A bit quicker
good.
than most.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
you're quite a fit person.
I try to be.
Well, you're in the gym constantly.
That's why I'm wearing a big jacket now, is to hide everything.
I was watching, talking of the gym, I was watching one of your videos yesterday in preparation for our chat, and it was the story about when you got told off for staring at somebody and they came up to you and they didn't believe that you were blind.
Yeah.
Like, does that happen quite often?
Yeah, it almost happened on the train today.
Really?
Because my eyes just do fall on, especially if I'm thinking about something. Like now I'm very switched on with you. I'm
Yeah,
engaged
yeah.
with you, so I'm trying to look in your direction.
Yeah.
When I'm not thinking about anything, they will just plonk where they want to plonk.
Got you, okay.
And someone, I overhear a lot of things with my big Dumbo ears.
Don't worry, mate, my ears are massive as well.
Twinning. And I heard them say like, that blind guy was staring right at me. I was like, oops, I'll just move my eyes. So it happens a lot, unfortunately. And this gym situation was really unfortunate. I was a lot younger than I am now.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the confidence or the knowledge to know that actually that's discrimination. That's maybe not the most legal thing to do in the world, to kick me out of that gym. But
Oh, you
it
got
does
kicked
happen.
out?
Yeah, I got asked to leave. Yeah,
They kicked you out of the gym?
yeah,
But,
that's rough.
so did they not believe that you were blind?
The woman who called me out on it didn't believe me, and then I don't think she was in such a rush to go get the manager. She didn't see my cane in my lap. So obviously the cane's a telltale sign that someone's not faking. And then the manager comes over. I explained to him, like, I'm blind, but they sounded very young, like 17, 18. Maybe didn't know what a cane was, what it symbolised. I don't look blind. And she asked me to leave, and I walked out with my cane. And she didn't ask me to come back. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's the end of that. It wasn't a gym I was used to. Like, it was in a city I'd never been to before.
Do you feel like the gym environment, because the gym environment for anybody is intimidating. Like I remember when I was 16 and going into gyms, and especially like I used to go to like a little YMCA where you didn't have too many like big guys and whatever. But going into, I guess, more legitimate gyms, it's quite an intimidating
It can be. When you're younger, especially.
Yeah.
Like I was probably, 16, 17. I only just started using my cane as well. Like that took a lot of confidence for me to even start using my cane. And yeah, for that to happen, that was a big knock. But the gym is intimidating, especially if I'm very lucky that I've educated myself a lot on the gym and fitness and whatnot. So I know what I'm doing. I know what each machine is. But for someone who maybe hasn't spent those hours and hours and hours looking into it, oh God, it's terrifying.
What support do the gyms give you now that maybe you didn't get when you first started?
The gym I go to is fantastic.
Yeah.
Shout out the gym group.
Yeah.
They are incredible. I was actually lucky enough to work with them on a campaign.
Yeah.
They pretty much all the time, unless the member of staff is taking a class that they run or has to, like maybe they're at the end of their shift and there's a gap between where the next staff member's on, they will take me around the gym, grab all my equipment for me, help me with attachments, even sometimes like help me with my form, because obviously I can't look in the mirror to see like maybe if something's going slightly wrong, they'll correct me with that kind of stuff. But some of them have become like some of my closest friends. They're all amazing. The support they've given me there is ridiculously good.
That is one of the things you have to be careful in the gym, and you have to. That's why they have the mirrors everywhere to make sure that your form's okay. So
yeah,
but it's good to hear they're supportive, because I can imagine for maybe people a bit younger than you that, as you say, haven't had that experience of going in the gym.
Yeah.
It's bloody intimidating.
Especially when you've got big guys. I think the whole steroid culture, people aren't as open about how many people are actually on steroids. You see all these massive guys and girls, to be fair, you get some absolute units. You know, you want to be like them and you don't know they're on steroids and you push yourself too hard and injure yourself, especially if you don't know things like correct form. Do you know what I mean? So I am very lucky in that sense that when I've taken the time to educate myself and also have that support with me as well.
Yeah. That's amazing to hear that. The kind of last thing I just want to go on to is what does the future hold for you? Like what is your goals and aspirations with your channel or channels? Like I know we were talking about like podcasts and stuff on the way here.
Yes. Yeah.
What are the aspirations moving forward? If we could wave a magic wand and achieve everything that you wanted to achieve over the next few years, what is it that you want to do with your platforms?
If you could wave a magic wand, like, of course I'd want to say, I'd love millions of followers across all these platforms. The one thing I'd ask for, actually two things I'd ask for, but they come simultaneously, is consistency over a long period of time.
Yeah.
To deliver good quality content consistently and to enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's my only goal, is to continue putting out this content that I am happy with and satisfied with. It's not just a bit of content that I've just thrown together, and that I actually enjoy doing it. Because if I had millions of followers and all these highly engaged audiences, but I didn't enjoy it, what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's what I'd ask for. But a podcast, like you mentioned, yes, 100%. And there's obviously smaller metrics that I'd like to hit, like 500,000 on TikTok. Of course, I want to get there as soon as possible. But I think ultimately it's about that enjoyment and satisfaction with it.
What about the educational side of things? Like what's the goal and aspiration there?
In terms of like the psychology of a degree and stuff.
No, yeah. To be fair, like one, are you ever thinking of going back and doing that side of things? But two, in terms of educating people using your platform.
I'd like to go into consultancy. To be fair, talking to brands, companies, institutions about how they can make their kind of spaces more accessible for blind people. That's something I'm very passionate about.
Yes.
So I'd like to use my platform to reach out to brands like that. In terms of degree and stuff, I mean, I do see myself going back to it down the line, but I think a long time down the line.
Yeah.
Long time down the line. Because I'm passionate about that as well. And it's what I set out to do when I was, a kid. So I think I'll fulfill that at some point. But for me, spreading this educational content, making people aware of that blind people don't just sit in the dark listening to Stevie Wonder. Do you know what I mean? Like that is the priority.
What are the kind of things that you'd want to change in brands and companies and spaces? Like, you've obviously thought about this a lot. What are the type of things that you would want to change?
It's things like, so of course I'm passionate about blindness and being blind, but also there's a much bigger demographic who are just visually impaired, who don't use a cane or a guide dog.
Yeah.
But their vision's still very poor. It's about lighting. Why walk into a place and it's really dark with tight spaces?
Like Hollister or something.
Hollister's terrible.
Yeah.
No offense.
You might as well just have the lights off.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Even as someone like, I don't use my vision to see, but just that scattered lighting is so, like, it hurts. Genuinely, I'm so sensitive to light, it hurts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, things like that. Like, have you highlighted your steps properly? Is there, lift access or escalator access if people aren't comfortable with
It
stairs?
seems so basic.
It is basic.
Is it a funding thing?
That's where I'm not too educated.
Yeah.
I couldn't say. I don't know if part of it's like, let's put a shop together and have it like this and have it all look pretty.
Yeah.
But actually it's not fundamentally a good shop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could be a funding thing, or it could just be a bit of naivety maybe.
Yeah,
of course they have, like, obviously I'm not going to go into somewhere like, what's a big brand? Like JD Sports, for example, and go to the people who have designed their shop and say, you haven't spoken to anyone disabled, because obviously they have to. But there's still like improvements that can be made really easily.
Just small changes that would make everybody's life so much easier.
Even people who aren't disabled.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Just older people, younger people.
Yeah.
Older people like me.
Older people like you with your hip replacements.
Hey, you're the one with the bad hip at the moment. Don't be firing hip replacements at me. My nan had to have a hip replacement, so it runs in the family. So.
I'll give you some advice when you get there.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're so right, because it's so true. Because, when I walk into a shop now, I don't think of those things.
No.
And if I was designing a shop now, I wouldn't think of those things.
No.
And I think that's what's one of the most beneficial things that have come out of someone like you having a platform.
Yeah.
Is it's so easy for you to make a video about that might get 200,000 views, which is more than what any marketing campaign that one of these agencies or charities would put out anyway. And I think that you working on those kind of things moving forward, and us as an agency helping you go into those businesses to have those conversations. I'm like writing a to-do list for Tal right now.
Literally.
Tal's going to be fuming after this. I'm like, God's sake, I've got so much work to do now. I think that's so important. It's not just about, and although the comedic side of things is great, and I personally love it, it is that educational side of things for you. And I do think having things like a podcast, a digital series, whatever it's going to be over the next
documentary like
that, I was actually speaking to Tal about this the other day, and Tal raised it with me about how many different ideas like she's come up with in terms of documentary ideas for you. There's so many spaces that you could talk about in terms of accessibility, and it isn't done enough. Like there aren't enough shows on TV, there aren't enough social media campaigns, and it seems like when they are doing it, it's ticking a box.
That's what I was just about to say, is it's like a quota.
Yeah.
We've done our disabled content, we've done our LGBT content for the year. Let's crack on with marketing on things we really care about.
The amount of brands that we work with who, come June, we want to do a Pride campaign. I pitch the same creators to them in October. They don't want to hear about you. Yeah, literally. And it is just ticking a box.
It is, yeah. It looks good on their behalf. And sometimes this is also what I feel when I work with brands. Sometimes is I just look good for their brand because I'm disabled, and that's how it feels sometimes. With a lot of brands, it doesn't. Yeah. And they genuinely enjoy my content, I hope. But there's some brands who just talk to you in a way that's like, do you even want me on this? Or is it just because I'm blind?
We had one the other day. I won't name the brand, but they wanted to work with one of our creators. They sent over the brief. We sent back a creative concept. And they basically were just like, can you focus on the fact that they are in this community? And we were like, that has nothing to do with the campaign.
Literally.
You're now showing you just want to tick a box.
It's crazy. But you've got to be, I don't like to be cynical, but no. I am quite cynical in that sense. Like, why do you want to work with me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that needs to be addressed more, I think, as well.
It is a catch-22 as well, because those brand managers who are saying, I want to work with Toby, have managers above them and directors above them saying, we need to work on hitting these quotas.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, it is a great thing because it's providing you with an income.
Well, yeah.
But secondly, you can still do that and work with people like you while still truly caring about the topics that they're trying to tick boxes for. And I think too often, and it is cynical, but it's true, they are just trying to tick a box at a certain time of the year, for example, instead of actually caring and putting in a long-term strategy about how can we raise awareness for a certain subsection of the community.
That's what it's all about. Like Millie Pickles, for example, who you're going to speak to.
Yes.
She has a couple of long-term partnerships and some of her content focuses around her disability and some of it focuses around why she loves that brand and why the brand's great. Yeah. And you can just tell that it's so mutually beneficial, but it's so authentic at the same time. Yeah. When you get these one-off ones that like, can you talk about being blind and how this has helped you? And then I'll never see you again. It's not, it doesn't feel so rewarding in that sense.
Yeah. To wrap this up, I want to ask everybody that comes on, what's your one best tip for keeping a positive mindset?
I think we touched on it earlier. It's about enjoying, say you've got something you want to be motivated towards. For me, for example, that could be content creation. Make sure there's other facets of your life that keep you motivated and give you enjoyment. Don't circulate your life around one thing.
Toby, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Honestly, every time I speak to you, I walk away so positive, and I hope that everybody who's listened and watched is the same. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
No, my pleasure, mate. Anytime.